You know that feeling, that really specific low-level frustration when your phone does a major update overnight?
Oh, yeah.
You wake up, you grab your coffee, unlock the screen, and for just a split second, your thumb just hovers over empty space.
Right.
The button you've pressed 5,000 times just isn't there anymore. The gestures are different. The whole logic of how you navigate your own device has been rewritten while you were asleep.
It's disorienting. I mean, you know it's the same object in your hand,
Mm-hmm.
but the operating system, the actual rules of the game have fundamentally changed.
Exactly. And I'm starting with that because I think that's the most accurate way to describe the vibe of the world right now. It's not just that the news is loud or chaotic, it's this deeper, almost itchy feeling that the global operating system has shifted and, nobody sent us the manual.
Right.
We're seeing trade wars, weird new alliances, supply chains snapping, and it feels like we're all trying to play a game where the rules were rewritten last night.
And that feeling, it isn't wrong. It's not just anxiety. What we're going to explore today suggests that this disorientation is actually the correct response to a massive structural shift.
Right. So today we are doing a deep dive into a source document that claims to map out this shift. It has the incredibly catchy title of MGF-36.
Sounds like a secret coordinate.
It really does. The subtitle is GOA as a phase declaration, and it uses an analysis framework called Mini Fields-Based LMOS. Now, I have to be honest with you. When I first opened this thing, I saw charts, layers, physics metaphors, and I thought, do I need a degree in structural engineering to read this?
It is dense, I'll give you that. But you don't need a PhD. You need to change your perspective a little.
Okay.
Think of MGF-36 not as a policy paper or a news article, but as a schematic. It's a blueprint of the machine that we're all living inside right now.
And that brings us to the mission of this deep dive, because usually when we talk about this stuff, tariffs, mining, geopolitics, it turns into a debate. Is this policy good? Is that politician bad?
We're the villains, yeah.
Exactly.
And that is precisely what we are not doing today. The core mission here is to have a low-noise conversation. If you want to understand why a car engine is making a strange sound, you don't scream at the radiator.
You open the hood.
You open the hood and you look at the gears.
So we're suspending moral judgment. For the next 15 minutes or so, we aren't asking if these changes are right or wrong. We're just asking, how does the machine work now?
We're moving from asking what governments are doing to understanding the operating system, the OS that they've just installed.
I love that framing, the source code of reality. So let's boot this up. What's the specific phenomenon that triggered this whole analysis? I mean, what actually happened?
The starting point is a structural observation about the United States, specifically how the U.S. is changing its relationship with the physical stuff that makes the modern world run.
Critical minerals, semiconductors, all that.
The building blocks. This stuff you can actually touch. Exactly. The observation in MGF-36 is that the U.S. has publicly declared a phase shift. To get this, we have to look back. For the last 30, maybe 40 years, the world ran on what we could call the market state OS.
Okay, let's define that before we move on. Market state, I'm guessing you mean the era of globalization we all grew up with?
Yes. Think about the logic that governed the world from, say, 1990 to 2020. The primary goal was efficiency, low prices,
Right.
the global division of labor. The logic was, if it's cheaper to mine lithium in country A, refine it in country B, and build the battery in country C, you do it.
Because the market will always find the most efficient path, like water flowing downhill. And that gave us cheap electronics, fast fashion, just-in-time delivery.
Correct. That was the market state operating system. Efficiency was the administrator.
Yeah.
But MGF-36 is arguing that this OS has been uninstalled. We are now seeing the installation of the security state OS.
Security state, that sounds heavier, implies just-in-time is gone.
It's certainly less flexible. In this new OS, the priorities completely flip. Efficiency is no longer the top goal. In fact, efficiency is now often seen as a weakness. The goals are resilience, national stockpiles, and domestic control.
So the question changes from where is it cheapest to is it safe?
Or even, do we own it? And the source points to specific mechanisms that prove this isn't just a tweak. This isn't just a temporary tariff or some political slogan. We're seeing deregulation to speed up domestic mining, ignoring environmental rules that were, sacred in the old OS.
Right.
We see state stockpiling.
So governments are actually buying physical copper and cobalt and just sitting on it.
Just sitting on it, yes.
There was one term in the notes that really jumped out at me because it feels like it just breaks all the rules of economics. State guaranteed demand.
Yes, that is the smoking gun. That proves the OS has changed.
Let's unpack that, because normally companies only build things if they think people will actually buy them.
Right. But imagine the government goes to a company and says, build this massive semiconductor factory. It will be incredibly expensive. But don't worry. If the global price crashes and you can't sell your product on the market, we promise to buy everything you make at a fixed price.
I mean, that violates every rule of the old market state. It's inefficient, it's a subsidy, it's market manipulation.
But in the security state OS, it's a necessary feature. You aren't building the factory for profit. You're building it for security. The logic has inverted.
So supply chains that we used to call efficient because they were so lean
Are now redefined as vulnerabilities.
that is a massive inversion. It's like waking up and being told that exercise is bad for you. The fundamental logic of how you judge good and bad has just flipped.
And that brings us to the core concept of MGF-36. If a state changes its operating system this drastically, it has to tell the world. It has to make a declaration. But the source argues there are two very different ways to do this, and this is where a lot of people get confused.
This is the high noise versus low noise distinction, right?
Correct. And understanding this distinction is, I think, the key to lowering your own blood pressure when you read the news.
Okay, walk us through high noise.
High noise is what we're all used to. It's the headline. It's a leader at a podium shouting, "We will ban this import," or "You must build this here." It's commanding. It demands compliance.
It feels like a fight, like drama.
It is a fight. It creates immediate friction.
So,
You shout, the other side shouts back. But MGF-36 identifies a second, much more potent type, the low noise declaration. And in the document, they call this GOA.
I was going to ask about that acronym, GOA, as a phase declaration. What does that actually mean?
In this context, don't get too hung up on the acronym itself. Focus on the function. A low-noise declaration doesn't command you to do anything. It doesn't judge good versus evil. It doesn't even ask you to agree.
That sounds kind of passive. If it's not commanding action, what's it doing?
It's stating a fact about the phase we're now in. It simply says, this state is now running on this operating system.
Like a status update or a terms of service update that you just click agree on.
Think of it like a thermostat. If I shout at you, take off your jacket right now, you might refuse just out of spite. You might argue that it's not hot, that's high noise. But if I silently walk over to the wall and change the temperature of the room from 70 degrees to 100 degrees, I haven't said a single word to you.
But I'm definitely going to take off my jacket.
Exactly. You adapt because the environment changed. A low-noise declaration changes the prerequisites of the world. It changes the initial conditions.
Okay, I see where this gets interesting. It changed the physics of the room, so you have no choice but to react. You don't have to agree with the heat to start sweating.
Precisely. The source says these declarations are designed to attenuate interference. They lower the emotional reaction, the noise, so that structural adaptation becomes possible. It's not about forcing you to act. It's about making it impossible for you to act in the old way because those options just don't exist anymore.
That's effective, but also a little spooky. It's power without the performance.
It's the most effective type of power in a transition phase. But here's the catch, and this is why your phone analogy at the beginning was so perfect. The transition isn't smooth. We aren't just swapping one OS for another instantly and everything works.
Right, we're in the messy middle. The apps are crashing.
And to explain that mess, the source uses this mini-fields framework. It breaks reality down into a stack of 3 layers, like geological strata or a layer cake.
I like cake. Let's stick with cake. What are the layers?
Okay. The bottom layer is the OS layer, the operational system. This is the machinery, the laws, the supply chains, the military protocols, the actual factories and mines.
The hardware.
The hardware, yes. The middle layer is the I layer, internal intentions. This is history, deep state goals, national trauma. It's the why, buried deep in a country's psyche. And then the top layer is the N layer narrative.
Okay.
This is our values, our ethics, our daily life, the stories we tell ourselves about how the world works and what makes a good society.
Okay, so machinery at the bottom, deep history in the middle, and our stories, what we believe is good or normal, right on top.
Now, here's the problem. The source calls it the speed problem. The analysis points out that the OS layer, the machinery of the state, is rewriting itself at an irreversible speed. The U.S. moving to a security state. That is happening fast.
Right.
New mines, new tariffs, new laws are being written right now.
But the N layer, The stories we tell
It's
ourselves.
lagging behind. It's moving much, much slower.
That makes so much sense. I mean, we still want cheap electronics. We still care about environmental ethics in a way that conflicts with digging massive new open pit mines. We still believe in the global village story.
Precisely. And in physics, when the bottom layer of a material moves faster than the top layer that's attached to it, what happens?
You get friction, tearing.
You get shear forces.
Yeah.
And the source uses this very vivid image here, the global membrane. Because of this speed mismatch, the OS moving fast toward security, and our values moving slow, stuck in the old market mindset, the membrane of the world is under extreme tension.
So the uniformity is lost, the elasticity is gone. It feels like things are about to snap.
And MGF-36 actually predicts where it will snap. It identifies the rupture points.
This is the part of the document that felt the most real to me. It says the tension collects at a very specific intersection. Environment times region times employment.
Yes. Let's make that concrete. Think about a quiet rural region. The new OS, the security state, demands a lithium mine there immediately. It says, we need this metal for national security right now.
Uh-huh.
But the old N layer, our values, says, wait, what about the local water supply? What about biodiversity? Is this fair to the community?
And usually in the old market state, that debate could go on for years. We'd do studies, have town halls.
But in the security state, the OS forces the issue. The speed of the requirement overrides the speed of the debate. That intersection is where the high-noise friction is felt most intensely. That is where the membrane tears.
That explains so much. It explains why every local zoning dispute suddenly feels like a geopolitical crisis. It's because the operating system of the state is grinding against the narrative of the people.
The gears are stripping. Exactly. And this isn't just happening in one place. This brings us to the Japan question, which the source highlights.
Yes, Japan. The source material spends a surprising amount of time on this. Why Japan specifically?
Japan is a unique case study in this framework. It's a crucial U.S. ally, but it has a very different eye layer, a different history, a different internal intention. The analysis asks, what is Japan's role in this new OS?
Okay.
The document outlines 3 potential roles for a player like Japan: following, buffering, or translating.
Following seems pretty obvious. Just do what the new OS says.
Right. The U.S. says jump, we jump, but buffering and translating are more complex. Buffering would mean trying to absorb the shock to protect your own local economy and values from the harsh speed of the U.S. shift. Take the hit so your people don't feel it yet.
And translating, that sounds the most constructive.
It's the most interesting one. A translator acts as an interface. It tries to make the new security OS understandable to the old narrative layer. It asks, can a country help lower the tension in the global membrane? Can Japan help the U.S. achieve security without completely tearing the fabric of global trade?
It's like being the diplomat between two tectonic plates.
It's a vital role, because if the membrane tension gets too high, the system breaks. You get war, total collapse, fragmentation. A translator helps the different layers move together without snapping.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We've established that the market state is, for all intents and purposes, gone. The security state is the new operating system. This isn't a policy we can vote on. It's a phase shift that has already happened.
Correct. The transition is irreversible. We're not going back to 2015.
And we know this is causing massive friction because our stories, our values haven't caught up to the machinery. This is where I start to feel a bit powerless. If I'm just an app running on an operating system I didn't choose, what am I supposed to do?
That is the big question. And this is where the low-noise methodology, this LMOS framework, becomes a kind of survival strategy for the listener.
How so?
It tells us how to process the news without burning out. The method says, don't view your emotion as noise. View it as a sensor.
Emotion is gradient. I saw that phrase.
Right. If you feel anger when you read about a new tariff, or if you see a protest on the news, treat that as data. Don't just get mad. Ask, why is the pressure high right here? It indicates where the gradient is flowing. It tells you where the tectonic plates are grinding.
So instead of asking, is this right or wrong?
Yeah.
We should be looking at where the pressure is pushing everything.
Exactly. The source material forecasts 3 specific gradients we need to watch. First, the OS gradient. It's irreversibly rising toward state-led security. Do not bet against that.
Okay.
Second, the I gradient. Capital and state are reemerging. We're looking at a long-term concentration of power. And third, the N gradient, the narrative layer.
The notes describe the N gradient as delayed, compressed, and silent. Honestly, that sounded quite ominous.
It implies that our ability to publicly debate these things is shrinking, compressed and silent. It suggests that the narrative, our ability to tell stories about what's happening, can't keep up with the raw speed of the structural changes. The machinery is moving too fast for the storytellers.
So we're left speechless because reality is changing faster than our vocabulary.
Which brings us right to the final provocation of the source. The open question.
Let's hear it.
The source concludes with this. This is not about whether you agree with the shift. The shift has happened. The question is, how do individuals, organizations, or countries position themselves relative to this OS shift?
It's asking us to choose a strategy.
It offers the same three choices we saw with Japan. And this applies to you, the listener, in your career, your investments, or just your daily life. Do you follow? Do you rush to align completely with the new security state rules? Do you pivot your business to defense and supply chains?
Or do you buffer?
Do you buffer? Do you try to build a wall to protect your local community and your old values from the speed of the change? Do you try and keep things the way they were? Or do you translate? Do you try to build bridges between the old values and the new reality?
I love that. It's not about fighting the weather. It's about deciding how to sail the ship.
Precisely. The wind has changed direction. You can scream at the wind, that's high noise.
Wow.
Or you can adjust your sails, that's low noise. The LMOS approach suggests that understanding the wind, understanding the structure, is infinitely more powerful than having an opinion about it.
Do you follow, do you buffer, or do you translate? That is something I am going to be thinking about all week. It turns a helpless situation into a strategic choice.
It's the only question that really matters right now. The OS has changed, the update is complete, now you have to learn how to use the new interface.
Well, on that note, we're going to wrap up this low noise observation. Thank you for joining us on the deep dive. Hopefully the world looks a little less chaotic and a little more structured, even if the structure is changing.
Keep observing the gradients.
We'll catch you next time.